The great arena of Zoran Prime was alive with sound. Thousands of alien voices shook the air like thunder. The dome-shaped structure stretched high above the crowd, its walls lined with glowing banners and giant holoscreens that flashed the image of their champion. The people had gathered to see what they always came for: battle. In the very center stood a raised platform of silver stone, polished smooth from years of combat. It was not only a fighting ground, it was sacred. Warriors of the Zoran Dominion had fought here for generations. Victors were celebrated, losers were forgotten. And at the heart of all this stood Princess Kalira, heir to the Dominion throne, dressed in gleaming armor that shimmered like liquid metal. Her tall frame and glowing violet eyes gave her a fearsome presence. She carried herself with the confidence of someone who had never tasted defeat. The crowd cheered her name. Kalira! 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 Her reputation was known across the stars. She was the princess who could break the bones of armored soldiers with her bare hands. She was the warrior who had never lost a duel, no matter how many challengers came forward. Some called her the Storm of Zoran, others the Unbreakable Blade. To the people of her world, she was more than a princess. She was proof of Zoran's strength. But Kalira's gaze was sharp with dissatisfaction. Victory after victory had made her restless. She did not only want to prove herself against her own people, she wanted to humiliate outsiders, especially the species many in the galaxy mocked: humans. For decades, humans had been underestimated in the Dominion. They were seen as soft, fragile, and too emotional to be true warriors. To the Zoran, who valued strength and power above all, humanity was almost laughable. And so Kalira raised her spear high, her voice ringing through the arena. People of Zoran, once again I stand undefeated. Yet I grow tired of ordinary opponents. I seek something more. Today I challenge any human brave enough to face me. The crowd erupted in laughter and mockery. Alien voices shouted cruel jokes. A human! They'll break in one strike. They are good only for trade and talk, not battle. This will end in seconds. Kalira smirked at the reaction. Her words had struck exactly where she wanted. She wanted to show the galaxy that humans were nothing compared to the might of Zoran warriors. But then, movement stirred near the edge of the platform. A single figure stepped forward from the shadows of the entry gate. It was a man. He wore no shining armor, only a simple uniform of dark blue with a few silver markings on the shoulders. His short brown hair was slightly messy, his face calm, and his eyes steady. He carried no weapon in his hands yet. He walked with the relaxed stride of someone unbothered by the laughter that rolled through the arena like a storm. The holoscreen zoomed in on him, and the announcer's voice echoed. Captain Marcus Hale of the Terran Defense Forces. The crowd booed and hissed. A few even laughed so hard they doubled over. Kalira tilted her head, surprised. She had expected hesitation, maybe even fear. But this human did not look afraid. Marcus stopped at the center of the platform and looked up at her. He stood much shorter than the towering princess, but he did not bow. His voice, calm and even, carried through the arena. I accept your challenge. A hush fell for only a moment before the laughter returned louder than ever. Kalira let out a laugh herself, her sharp teeth catching the light. You? You cannot be serious. Do you not value your life, human? I do, Marcus replied, his tone unshaken. That is why I stand here. A challenge has been given. A soldier answers. The crowd jeered. Some threw small objects onto the platform, but Marcus did not flinch. He stood like a stone, unmoved. Kalira twirled her spear and took a step closer, her armor clinking softly. She looked down at him with a mix of amusement and contempt. You can't last a second against me, human, she said. I will end this fight before you even raise a hand. Marcus met her gaze without blinking. Then I'll just have to prove you wrong. The words did not come with pride or arrogance. They were spoken simply, like a fact. That quiet confidence unsettled Kalira more than she wanted to admit. The announcer's voice rang again. Combatants, prepare. The platform shifted, and panels slid open along the edges. From the compartments, weapons rose. Plasma blades, shock spears, heavy gauntlets and energy shields. Kalira grabbed her familiar spear with ease, spinning it once so its edges lit up with crackling blue energy. The sight alone made the crowd cheer in anticipation. Marcus stepped toward the weapons as well, but instead of choosing something heavy or grand, he picked up a simple combat staff, metal reinforced but without glowing edges. It looked plain, compared to Kalira's radiant weapon. The crowd laughed again. A stick! The human chooses a stick. But Marcus tested its weight, gave it a twirl, and held it steady. His calm eyes never left Kalira. The announcer shouted, "The duel begins in 3, 2, 1. The arena roared, and the ground vibrated as the countdown ended. Kalira lunged forward with blinding speed, her spear striking down like a flash of lightning. Her people cheered, already certain it would be over. But then, clang, the staff moved with perfect timing, catching the spear's head and sliding it aside. The attack missed. The crowd gasped. Kalira narrowed her eyes. That was unexpected. She spun, attacking again, faster, harder, from the side. But again, clang. The staff intercepted. Marcus did not move with wild speed or power. His movements were controlled, precise, almost simple. But they were enough. For the first time in years, Kalira felt something stir in her chest. Not anger, not pride. Something else. Excitement. This human was not breaking. He was standing. And as the crowd roared with both disbelief and anger, Marcus simply adjusted his grip on the staff, his calm voice carrying again. "You said I wouldn't last a second. Looks like we've already passed that." Kalira's smile widened. It was not the smile of mockery anymore. It was the smile of a warrior who had finally found a fight worth her time. The duel had just begun. The arena floor trembled as the duel began in earnest. The sound of thousands of voices rolled like a storm, echoing off the walls of the great dome. Lights from holoscreens flashed across the Silverstone platform, capturing every movement. For the entire galaxy to see, Princess Kalira wasted no time. She lunged again, her spear a blur of blue light. She attacked with the same confidence she always carried, the confidence of a champion who had never been touched in battle. Her strikes came down like lightning, fast, sharp, and merciless. Marcus, Hale, the human captain, met them all. He did not move with the wild speed of an alien warrior, nor with the raw power that Kalira's people loved. Instead, he moved with patience. Each strike of her spear was met by the solid steel of his staff. Sparks flew as the two weapons clashed again and again, ringing out like the beating of a great drum. The crowd grew restless. "This is impossible." Someone shouted. "He should already be on the ground," cried another. Kalira gritted her teeth. She was holding nothing back, yet this human blocked her again and again. His face showed no fear, no panic, only focus. She leapt back a step, circling him, her violet eyes narrowing. "You are fast for a human." Marcus gave no reply. He simply shifted his stance, staff held low, his breathing steady. The announcer's voice cut through the noise. "Unbelievable! The human still stands. Captain Marcus Hale has lasted longer than any expected." The people roared, but their voices were no longer full of laughter. They were mixed now, with surprise, with disbelief, with curiosity. Kalira attacked again, this time striking not only forward, but sweeping low, then spinning with a strike aimed at Marcus's side. It was a combination that had ended dozens of fights before. But Marcus ducked, blocked, and turned her momentum aside with careful footwork. The movement looked almost simple, but to Kalira it felt like trying to strike smoke. Always solid. When touched, yet slipping away before she could trap him. She felt her pulse quicken. It had been years since she had to think about her attacks. Most opponents fell after her first strike. This human was different. "Impressive," she muttered, loud enough for him to hear. Marcus finally spoke, his voice calm but firm. "You're strong, stronger than most, but strength isn't everything." Her eyes widened for the briefest moment. His words stung, not with insult but with truth. The crowd, watching closely, sensed the shift. Cheers turned into gasps as Kalara pressed harder, striking faster. She twirled her spear, creating streaks of light that cut the air. The sound of her weapon striking the staff echoed again and again, metal clashing against energy. Marcus took hits on his arms and shoulders. The glowing spear grazed him, leaving burns on his uniform, but he did not fall. Each time she struck, he answered with discipline, never wasting energy, never panicking. Kalara felt frustration rise. Her pride as a warrior princess demanded she finish this quickly, yet the human refused to break. "You fight like a machine," she said, her voice a mixture of irritation and respect. "Do you feel nothing?" "I feel enough," Marcus answered, his eyes never leaving hers. Enough to know giving up is not an option. For the first time, silence spread through part of the crowd. Aliens who had come to mock humans now leaned forward, watching closely. This was no longer a comedy. This was a battle worth seeing. Kalara struck again with all her force. Marcus staggered back, his staff shuddering under the blow. He almost fell, but at the last moment he shifted his weight and used her strength against her, pushing her off balance. The princess slid back across the arena floor, her armored boots scraping against the stone. The crowd gasped loudly. Their champion had been forced backward. Kalira's chest rose and fell as she steadied herself. Her eyes glowed brighter with the thrill of challenge. She had never been pushed like this, never forced to actually defend instead of only attack. "You," she said softly, almost in disbelief. "You are not what I expected." Marcus straightened, his staff firm in his hands. Sweat ran down his face and his chest heaved from effort, but his voice was steady. "I told you, strength isn't everything. Sometimes patience wins the fight." The arena shook with noise. Some of Kalira's people shouted in anger, furious that a human dared speak such words. Others shouted in awe, unable to deny what they saw with their own eyes. The announcer's voice rang again, heavy with excitement. "History is being made here today. The human has forced the princess to retreat." Kalira's frustration melted into something else. A slow smile spread across her face, not of mockery but of delight. For the first time her blood sang with the joy of a real fight. "Good," she said, raising her spear. "Finally, someone worthy." She dashed forward again, this time with more precision. No longer treating Marcus as a fragile opponent, she gave him the respect of a true enemy. Every strike was faster, sharper, more dangerous. Marcus met her again, his body aching, his arms trembling, but his mind sharp. He studied her movements carefully. Each strike revealed a rhythm, a pattern. Where others only saw speed, Marcus saw openings, small but real. The battle grew fierce. Sparks filled the air. The clang of weapons rang louder than the crowd itself. Marcus took another hit to his side, pain shooting through his ribs. He stumbled, and for a moment it looked like he might finally fall. The crowd roared in triumph, but Marcus steadied himself, gritting his teeth. He refused to go down. "You're stubborn," Kalira said, panting. Her respect for him grew with each moment. "But stubbornness alone cannot save you." "Maybe not," Marcus replied, "but sometimes it's enough to surprise you." He struck suddenly, faster than before. His staff shot upward, not to hit her but to deflect her spear just slightly. Off course. In that instant he stepped inside her reach and tapped the end of his staff against her armor, light but clear. The crowd gasped again. He had touched her. Kalira froze, her eyes wide. No one had ever done that before, not in all her years of fighting. Marcus stepped back, staff ready, breathing hard. "Not bad. For a human," he said quietly, echoing her earlier words. For a moment, the arena fell into silence. Then the cheers exploded, not just from humans in the audience, but from aliens as well. Kalira's smile returned, sharper and brighter than ever. "You dare mock me with my own words? Good, very good." Her spear spun in her hands, energy crackling louder than before. The fight was far from over. But now it was no longer about humiliation. It was about respect. The Princess of Zoran had finally found an opponent worth her strength. And the human who was supposed to last only a second now stood proudly, ready for more. The duel had only just begun, and the galaxy was watching every heartbeat of it. The arena had never been so loud, yet also so divided. Half of the crowd roared with fury, unable to accept what they were seeing. The other half sat in stunned silence, watching with wide eyes as the impossible unfolded before them. Princess Kalira, the undefeated Storm of Zoran, had met a human who refused to bow, refused to break, and even dared to strike back. Marcus Hale stood on the silver stone platform, chest rising and falling with heavy breaths. Sweat rolled down his face. His arms ached, his ribs burned from earlier hits, but he still stood straight. His staff trembled only slightly in his hands, but his eyes remained sharp. Kalira paced across from him, spear spinning in her hands. The blue glow of the weapon burned brighter, reflecting her growing energy. But in her chest, her emotions swirled in a way she had not felt in years. She was frustrated. She was excited. She was alive. No one had ever pushed her this far. Not her generals, not her trainers, not even the strongest challengers from across the galaxy. Yet this human, small in frame compared to her, scarred and weary, was still here. "Tell me, human," she said, her voice echoing through the dome. "What keeps you standing? My strikes could shatter metal. My strength has ended dozens of warriors stronger than you. Yet you refuse to fall." Marcus adjusted his stance, holding the staff low. He met her eyes without fear. "Because I've faced worse, and because someone has to prove that humans are not as weak as you think." The crowd hissed and shouted at his words. Insults flew, calling him arrogant, foolish, delusional. But others listened in silence, their gazes fixed on the human who dared speak with such calm. Kalira's grip tightened on her spear. "Then prove it. Show me your strength, Captain Marcus Hale of Earth." She launched forward. This time her strikes were different. No longer wild with frustration, they were precise. Sharp. Deadly. She attacked with the full discipline of a warrior who had trained since childhood, her body moving in patterns that no ordinary soldier could follow. The spear cut the air in arcs of blue fire. Each swing hummed with raw energy. Marcus blocked, dodged, and turned, but the force behind each blow rattled his bones. The staff shook in his hands as her spear slammed against it again and again. The crowd roared with each impact. He staggered backward, his boots sliding on the stone. His arm screamed with pain, but his mind stayed focused. He forced himself to watch, not only to survive. He watched her movements, the rhythm of her strikes, the way her left shoulder dipped slightly before a heavy sweep, the way her right foot always pressed down harder when she prepared for a spin. Patterns. Kalira was fast, almost too fast for the eye to follow, but she was still a warrior of flesh and blood. Every fighter had habits, no matter how strong. Marcus had trained for years to read them, to find the smallest weakness and turn it into survival. The crowd cheered as Kalira spun, her spear creating a dazzling circle of light. She prepared, her signature strike, a crushing overhead blow followed by a spinning slash from below. It was her finishing move, the one that had ended countless duels. "End him now," shouted voices from the stands. Marcus's breath came ragged, but his mind sharpened. He had seen enough. He knew what was coming. The spear came down with a thunderous crash. The air shook as the weapon slammed against his staff. Sparks exploded. Marcus bent his knees, absorbing the blow, his teeth clenched against the pressure. Then, as she spun for the follow-up strike, Marcus moved. He stepped into her spin, not away from it. His staff twisted, catching the spear just before its blade could cut across him. With a quick shove, he redirected the weapon, sending its energy off course. The crowd gasped. And then, he struck, not with raw power, but with perfect timing. The end of his staff hit the joint of her armor at her shoulder, just enough to make her stumble. Kalira staggered back, her balance broken. For the first time in her life, her signature move had been stopped. The arena fell into silence. Thousands of voices caught in their throats, unable to believe what they had just seen. Kalira herself froze, staring at Marcus with wide eyes. Her chest rose and fell, her heart pounding in disbelief. No one had ever countered that strike. No one had ever dared step into its path. Yet this human, who was supposed to fall in a second, had not only survived it, he had turned it against. Her Marcus stood ready. Staff pointed toward her, his voice quiet but firm. "You're strong, Princess. Stronger than anyone I've fought. But you're not perfect." The words cut deeper than any blade. The crowd erupted again. But this time, their voices were mixed. Some screamed in outrage that their princess had been touched, that their sacred move had been countered. Others shouted in awe, unable to hide their admiration for the human's courage. Kalira's lips curled into a slow smile. Not of anger, not of humiliation, but of respect. She let out a short laugh, one that echoed through the arena. "Well done," she said, lifting her spear again. "No warrior has ever stopped me like that. You have earned my attention, human. From this moment I fight you not as prey, but as an equal." The words shook the crowd almost as much as the clash itself. Marcus nodded, his face serious. His arms ached, his body begged for rest, but his spirit burned brighter than ever. "That's all I ask." The fight was far from finished, but something had changed. The balance had shifted. The warrior princess no longer saw him as fragile, no longer as weak. She now saw him as a rival, worthy of her respect, worthy of her full power. The galaxy watched as the impossible happened. A human had forced the undefeated princess to retreat. And as the next round of the duel began, everyone knew the turning point had come. The battle was no longer about pride. It was about something greater. It was about respect. The clash of weapons rang like thunder inside the dome. The fight had already gone far longer than anyone could have imagined. What began as a challenge meant to humiliate humanity had become something else entirely, something no one could look away from. Sweat ran down Marcus Hale's face. His arms felt like fire, his muscles trembling from the endless strain. Every breath he took burned in his chest. Yet he stood tall, staff still in his hands, refusing to fall. Across from him, Princess Kalira looked no less worn. Her armor was scratched, her breathing sharp. The glow of her spear dimmed slightly from overuse, yet her violet eyes burned brighter than ever. Around them, the crowd no longer laughed. They no longer mocked. Their voices were loud, but their tone had changed. They shouted in awe, in disbelief, in wonder. This duel was no longer one-sided. It was a battle worthy of their greatest arena. Kalira raised her spear again, twirling it with practiced grace. Her voice carried through the silence that fell between strikes. "Human, you have surprised me. Few can last this long. None have ever forced me to fight this hard." Marcus gripped his staff tightly, steadying his breathing. His voice was low but steady. "You wanted a challenge. Now you have one." Her lips curled into a fierce smile. "Yes, and I am glad for it." With a sudden cry, she launched forward once more. Her spear cut the air, flashing arcs of blue light. Marcus met her strikes, staff spinning and blocking, his movements less smooth now but still precise. The weapons clashed, sparks flying, their sounds echoing across the entire arena. The duel became a storm. Strike after strike, block after block, each attack pushing the fighters closer to their limits. Marcus felt his knees weaken, his arms trembling. He had fought many battles before, but never against someone like her. Every strike tested the edge of his endurance. Still, he refused to surrender. Kalira, too, felt her strength fading. For the first time, her body ached. Her movements slowed, her muscles screamed for rest. Yet she pushed forward. She would not allow herself to end this without giving everything she had. The crowd grew louder with every heartbeat. They watched, not just a fight, but a story being written before their eyes, a human standing against the might of their princess, and the princess giving respect in return. Kalira struck high. Marcus blocked. She swept low. He jumped back. She spun her spear with dazzling speed, and Marcus countered with careful timing. The two fighters moved in a rhythm, almost like a dance, one of strength, one of endurance. Minutes felt like hours. At last, Kalira raised her spear high, and struck with all her remaining strength. The blow came down like a hammer of light, and Marcus caught it with his staff. The force drove him to one knee, his body shaking. For a moment, it seemed he would finally break. The crowd leaned forward, waiting for the end, but Marcus grit his teeth and pushed back. With a sudden twist, he turned the staff sideways, guiding the spear off balance. Kalira stumbled, her eyes widening. Marcus saw his chance. With one last surge of energy, he spun his staff and hooked it around her spear. A quick pull, and the weapon flew from her hands, clattering across the stone floor. The arena fell silent. Kalira stood weaponless, her chest heaving. She looked down at her empty hands, then back at Marcus. He stood before her, staff ready, but he did not strike. Instead, he lowered his weapon slowly. His voice came quiet but clear. "It's over." The silence deepened. He could have finished her. He could have claimed victory in front of thousands. Yet he chose not to. Kalira stared at him, her breath uneven. For a long moment she said nothing. Then slowly she laughed, a deep, proud laugh that rang across the arena. You had me disarmed, and yet you showed mercy." Her eyes glowed with something new. Not anger, not pride, but respect. "You fight not only with strength but with honor. I have never met a warrior like you." Marcus gave a small nod. His body was close to collapse, but his voice remained steady. "A fight isn't about destroying the other. It's about proving something. I think we've both proved enough." The crowd erupted. Some shouted in outrage that their princess had been disarmed. Others cheered in admiration for the humans' courage. But none could deny the truth. A human had stood against their greatest warrior and earned her respect. Kalira lifted her chin, her voice strong. "Hear me, people of Zorin. This human has done what no other could. He has stood against me and shown the strength of his kind. Let none say again that humans are weak." The arena shook with the force of her words. Even those who despised humans could not ignore what had happened before their eyes. Marcus stood silently, his body aching, his spirit burning bright. He had not come to win glory, but to prove something greater. That humans could stand tall even when the galaxy doubted them. And in that moment, he had succeeded. The fight was over, the respect was earned, but the story was not finished. The arena was alive with cheers, claps, and shouts. The battle that had begun as a challenge to humiliate a human had transformed into something extraordinary. Thousands of eyes watched as Princess Kalira, undefeated Storm of Zorin, lowered her spear in acknowledgement of her opponent. Marcus Hale stood tall, staff in hand, sweat running down his face and body aching from exhaustion. His breathing was heavy, yet his posture remained steady. Around him, humans and aliens alike were witnessing history. Kalira took a deep breath, her violet eyes locking onto Marcus's steady gaze. Her voice carried through the arena, strong and clear. "People of Zorin," she began, her tone commanding. Silence. "I have faced many warriors in my life. Some were strong, some clever, some powerful beyond imagining. But never have I faced someone like this human." She gestured toward Marcus, who remained silent, letting her words speak for him. He did not rely on raw power alone. He did not rely on flashy skill or blinding speed. He relied on patience, strategy, and courage. These are the qualities of a true warrior, and through his actions, he has shown that humanity deserves respect. The crowd erupted, some in disbelief, others in cheers. Alien voices shouted their amazement, and human spectators felt pride swelling in their hearts. No one could argue. The human had not only survived, but had earned respect from the greatest warrior of Zorin. Kalira's smile widened. She stepped down from her combat stance and approached Marcus. The energy from her spear dimmed as she lowered it completely. "You have my respect, Marcus Hale," she said. "No one has ever made me fight like that, and no one has ever earned my honor through battle before." Marcus nodded, his tired arms lowering the staff. "Thank you, Princess Kalira. I did what I had to do. Humanity may be small in the galaxy, but we can stand strong when it matters most." Kalira tilted her head, her expression thoughtful. "Small? perhaps, but your spirit, your determination. It is something even the mightiest of Zoran could learn from. A hush fell over the arena. The crowd sensed a new beginning, a shift in the balance of galactic power, not through destruction, but through respect and recognition. Kalyra extended her hand toward Marcus, an offer not of conquest but of alliance. You have proven yourself, human. Perhaps we can learn from each other. Perhaps together we can face greater challenges than either of us could alone. Marcus took her hand firmly. The grip was strong, mutual, and it carried with it more than respect. It carried the beginning of trust. The arena roared in approval. Aliens shouted their admiration, humans cheered, and holoscreens across the galaxy broadcasted the event in real time. What had begun as a duel to showcase superiority had ended in unity, a lesson to all watching. Strength is measured not only in skill, but in courage, honor, and respect. As the crowd settled, Kalyra raised her voice once more. Let this day mark a new chapter for the Dominion and for humanity. Let it remind us that courage and determination are worth more than prejudice and arrogance. We have much to learn from each other, and today, we begin. Marcus smiled faintly, exhaustion evident in his features but pride shining in his eyes. I agree, Princess. This is only the beginning. The arena began to empty slowly, the crowd buzzing with excitement. Aliens discussed the fight in excited tones, whispering to each other about the human's skill, his endurance, and the way he had changed the outcome of the duel. Humans celebrated quietly, knowing their place in the Yao. Galaxy had grown stronger. Outside the arena, the two warriors walked together, no longer adversaries but equals. Their conversation was quiet, respectful, and full of curiosity. You fought well, Kalyra said, her tone softer now. You were not just lucky. You understood the flow of battle. You anticipated, adapted, and used your mind as much as your body. Marcus nodded. Thank you. Your strength pushed me beyond what I thought I could do. If I had underestimated you even slightly, I would have fallen. You are an incredible warrior. Kalyra smiled, a genuine smile that few had ever seen. Perhaps we are not so different, you and I. We both fight with honor. We both value courage. Perhaps together humans and Zoran can achieve more than either alone. Marcus's eyes lit with understanding. I hope so. There is much the galaxy can learn if we put aside fear and judgment. The sun of Zoran Prime began to set, casting long golden beams through the arena dome. The light reflected off Kalyra's armor and Marcus's simple uniform alike, symbolizing a union not of species, but of shared values: strength, honor, courage, and respect. Weeks passed after the duel, and stories of the fight spread throughout the galaxy. Humans, once seen as weak and unworthy, gained recognition among powerful species. Aliens who had mocked their determination now offered tentative respect. Political leaders of distant worlds began to reconsider their prejudices. Kalyra kept her promise to Marcus. She invited him to join training exercises with her elite warriors, not as a subordinate, but as a partner. Together they devised strategies, shared techniques, and learned from each other. The bond between the human and the princess grew stronger with each day. It was not friendship in the usual sense, there was still the fire of rivalry, but it was mutual respect and understanding that could turn into something far greater. During one training session, Kalyra spun her spear in the air and laughed. You've improved since our duel, human. I had to use all my focus just to keep up with you last time. Marcus chuckled, swinging his staff. You've improved too, princess. You can't let me catch up too easily. They sparred lightly, their movements a dance of skill and trust. Around them, the warriors of Zoran watched silently, learning a new lesson, that even the mightiest could gain from humility, and even the smallest could teach something valuable. One evening, as the sun set over the domes of Zoran Prime, Marcus and Kalyra stood on the edge of the training ground, looking toward the horizon. The galaxy is bigger than either of us, Marcus said quietly. There are many challenges ahead, but if humans and Zoran stand together, Perhaps we can face anything. Kalara nodded, her long hair catching the golden light. Yes. Together we are stronger. And together we will show the galaxy the true meaning of courage and honor. The stars began to appear in the night sky one by one. The arena, the city, the planet itself seemed to hum with possibility. Humans and Zoran, once divided by distance and doubt, now shared a vision of unity. The duel in the arena had ended, but its impact would last for generations. A human had stood against the greatest warrior of Zoran and earned her respect. A princess had acknowledged that strength alone does not define greatness. And the galaxy had witnessed that courage, honor, and determination can cross the boundaries of species. As Marcus and Kalira walked back toward the city side by side, the people watched in silence. They knew they had seen something extraordinary. A new alliance had begun, not forged by politics or fear, but by courage, respect, and the shared bond of warriors who had tested each other to their limits. And for the first time, humans were no longer just another species in the galaxy. They were a force to be recognized, a people capable of standing tall among the stars. Kalira glanced at Marcus and smiled. Are you ready for the next challenge? Marcus returned the smile, tired but determined. Always. The stars sparkled above them, and the galaxy felt a little smaller, a little closer, and a little brighter. For the first time, a human and an alien princess had shown the universe what true courage and respect could achieve. And together, they had opened the door to a future that no one had dared imagine.